Good evening. Welcome. This is our third meeting of the Committee of the Whole. And I call this committee meeting to order. All councilors are present via Zoom. This meeting has special procedures given the governor's declaration of a public health emergency and restrictions on large gatherings. Therefore, this meeting is being held via Zoom video conference. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting live through 3 different platforms: GovTV on Comcast Channel 16, the GovTV website, and on YouTube. These live streams can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. And for those watching on live stream, thank you for joining us tonight. The video recording of this meeting will also remain available for viewing at any time on the council's website. So council staff is available via telephone. If members of the public need assistance to find the videos online, call 768-3100 for assistance on Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. office hours here at the council. So tonight is the third of 3 public hearings the council is required to hold on the city's operating budget. Tonight's meeting will focus on the proposed committee substitute and amendments. Live public comment is not being taken this evening, but councilors did accept written comments in advance of today's meeting, which have been distributed to all councilors. Tonight, it is the intent to send the budget as substituted and amended to the Monday meeting, this next Monday, October 19th, of the City Council for adoption. Live public comment will be taken at that meeting. And, we've gone through an interesting public process this year with the COVID. We're roughly a half year behind our normal schedule in adopting this budget. But I want to in advance appreciate everyone who's worked on this, and especially our hardworking council fiscal staff and all you councilors for giving this due consideration, and for the mayor's office and the administration for answering our questions as we've gone through the process. So we'll get started with the presentations. And I need to move the bills tonight at this point.
Actually, just going through bills.
Yeah.
Don't have any no presentation.
Okay, no presentations, but we'll go ahead and start with moving the bills that are related to this year's operating budget of the city. So the first one is 037. This is amending various sections of the revised ordinances of the city, including the solid waste ordinance to update effective rate of rate change, amending the rate table appendix to incorporate residential rate increases and the rate appendix, and amending the rate table to incorporate the fiscal year 21 rate increase and rate appendix. I move a do pass. Is there a second? I see a second from Councilor Gibson. And so that's our motion is in place, and we do have an amendment, copies of which are copies of which are have been emailed to you and are on the iPads. We'll need a vote on this amendment. This would be committee amendment number 1, which is by Councilor Davis. Councilor Davis, you want to lead us through this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about that. I'm not used to having to jump on this way. So thank you. Mr. Chair, the administration had proposed an amendment to raise the fees on the basic sanitation service that we provide through solid waste to $1.55. In conversations we've had with the administration and with the department, I think we've identified additional needs. Thanks, Julian. I think we've identified some additional needs that councilors identified, including median rehab, some landfill costs, and some additional need for additional Clean Cities teams to help us with alley cleanup and illegal dumping. So this amendment would do that. It would raise that rate from a $1.55 increase to a $2 increase. It's still below the cost of some of our neighboring cities, and certainly doesn't cover all of the costs for this program, but does sort of update that since it's been since 2014. So I would move floor amendment or committee amendment number 1.
Thank you, Councilor Davis. And is there a second? For purpose of discussion, I will second the amendment.
Thanks. I think we had some.
Hard to watch the hand symbol and the video at the same time, especially when there's a document up there. So there's a motion and a second. And these, as I understand it, Councilor Davis, these are getting us closer to what the actual cost is on some of these areas, right?
Mr. Chairman, that's right. As we learned through the process, the actual cost to provide some of these service exceeds the current rate we're paying, which has not been adjusted since 2014. I agree with the administration that we need to make a adjustment. It's kind of it's a complicated time to do that. But if at the risk of prolonging this too long, I would like to ask the administration just to weigh in and let us know. I think the question we'd like to just be clear is we have addressed a number of concerns about increased demand on Clean Cities for illegal dumping and alley cleanups, et cetera, that currently residents are being required to do. And I know the administration has said they'd like to use some of these new funds for that. And I think that's an excellent reason to justify this. But I'd like to hear from the administration very briefly, if possible, Mr. Chair, just to confirm that they will help us with that concern.
All right, thank you. I see the mayor's conference room, and is there someone there who can speak to the amendment?
Thank you, Chair and Councilor Davis. Yes, what this does is get us closer to where we need to be when it comes to everything else that we're doing as far as our Clean Cities division, as well as some of our household hazardous waste and some of the costs at the landfill, and also for our convenience centers. But it also adds some services that we can provide that we're currently providing, but at a higher level. One of the things that we are seeing a lot more of is the illegal dumping. I know that there's a need for shopping cart cleanup, and being able to raise this rate will help us to begin to address those items. It'll also get us closer to the cost of service and to balance out what it needs to be.
All right.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions from the council? Councilor Sena.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. I just had a general question. I know that this is a bit of an increase from what was proposed earlier. I do have some reservations just because of the times that we are in, thinking about residents. Can we just go over, a typical resident cost per household, and maybe a neighboring city? I know we went over this, but just for the sake of those watching, a comparison to Rio Rancho, for example.
Mr. Whelan?
Council Chair, and I think Councilor, yes, if we go to $17, Tucson is at $16.75. Bernalillo County is at $17.66. We'll still be cheaper than the county, and we're not reducing any services. We're actually adding additional services or increasing services where the county only picks up recycling every other week. Rio Rancho is at $17.73. They currently had a rate increase, and they decreased their recycling pickups to every other week. So we'll still be cheaper than our two neighboring cities, the county and the city, which is Rio Rancho, and Salt Lake City is at 21. Los Alamos is at 25. Phoenix is at 26. El Paso, Texas is at 30. And Austin, Texas is at 43.50. So even by going to 17 as opposed to 16.55, we'll still be cheaper than everybody with the exception of Tucson.
Now, if I can follow up, Mr. Chair.
Please.
If we can also, this cost also contributes to areas where we're looking to make our city greener, reducing waste. The study that we had mentioned before about possibility of composting for food and green waste. Does that contribute to those goals?
Council Chair, thank you, and Councilor, yes, we will definitely look into increasing our program even through the national sword and the market change in 2018. We have not reduced our level of services. We've continued our level of service in all of our areas. And as far as when it comes to recycling and composting and green waste, we always look for opportunities to increase that because we know it's better for the environment, but it also saves on our landfill space. So we would definitely do that. And we also are going to do a study when it comes to recycling because that was requested by one of the councilors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sena, and thanks, Mr. Director. Any other questions from councilors? So we have the amendment. Pardon me? I'm sorry. Councilor Borrego just raised her hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Mr. Wayland Matthew for including the recycle portion of this into, we had a really nice conversation this week about recycling technology, which I had asked for at our last meeting. And what he proposed is to do a survey in the next few months, by January, sometime February, which goes out to residential folks and assesses whether or not there's a need for that. So I think that we'll be hearing a little bit more about that later on as we go forward, councilors. But I think it's a definitely, I just wanted to give them a little high five for listening.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that high five, Councilor Borrego. And I share that. The Solid Waste Department does a lot more than people realize. And we're having discussions tonight about some amendments with regard to the new department and the need to address homeless issues, and they're involved with that as well. So we're all pitching in many ways, and including in paying our refuse collection fees and recycling fees. All right, so we don't have anyone else to speak at this point. So we have the amendment number 1, and we need to vote on that bill as amended. So please call the roll.
Thank you. Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Amendment 1 passes unanimously.
All right, that puts us back on the bill as amended. Councilors, any further discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously as amended.
All right, thank you, councilors. Now I will move for immediate action on 037.
So, second.
Second for Councilor Davis. And Ms. Ortega to call the roll.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
9-0 for immediate action.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. We're now on R98. This is adjusting the appropriating funds for operating the government of the city of Albuquerque for fiscal year 2021, beginning July 1st, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021, and appropriating capital funds. I move a do pass.
Second.
A second from Counselor Gibson. And I'll move the committee substitute for R98. That was distributed via email and on pads 24 hours in advance. A second for the committee sub. Counselor Davis, seconded. Thank you. And any discussion on that committee substitute, counselors? Well, this is substituting it. We can certainly talk about it more, but council did work as usual on a committee substitute after lengthy discussions with and questions and answers from many of the departments and discussions with the administration. I would just say that importantly, the one of the top actions by the council, there's some minor adjustments to the mayor's proposed budget, but the one that probably has the most significance is with regard to the new department and the new community safety department, as the mayor's named it. In our committee sub, we're just calling it the new department because we do feel that this is, yes, about safety. It's also about health and welfare of everyone, but particularly people on the streets who are experiencing homelessness and perhaps are experiencing behavioral disorders. I think all my conversations with counselors is we certainly agree with the need to break out this work away from public safety, from law enforcement, excuse me, and move it towards service to people on the streets, and that whole effect of how we interact with them on the streets, which sometimes has been difficult for all concerned, including APD. So I think we're on the right track with this approach. I'll open it up for any discussion with those who would like, and then we have a number of amendments. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to take a privilege to first extend my appreciation to you for the work you've done to bring this committee sub forward with staff, but really to try to bring all these disparate agendas together in an odd budget year, to say the least, and try to find us a path forward. So I commend you for doing that. I know it's a hard job. I really do appreciate it. I just want to comment and follow what you said and echo what you said about the change. I think folks in the public are going to see this tomorrow in the news, and they're going to have questions about really what is the city's approach going forward to how we will address and build the non-law enforcement response to these community concerns. I want to echo to what you said, which is, and apparently my dog does too. I want to echo what you said, and that is that we are working hard to come up with a strategy to do that. And the administration's proposal began with a strategy of restructuring some of those, not police enforcement, but enforcement roles. And I fully support that idea of consolidating those because I think they're very similar. But we also know that we need to make the plan to do that transition smartly, to invest in those security officers and parking officers and their future and their training, to be sure that when they're on the street doing that work, they have the skills they need. And I think that's what the council is laying out. And I want to particularly call out the fact that we're allocating money up to $1 million in order to make that available in the future as these folks come online. And we don't have to wait till the next budget. And I really do appreciate the counselors who brought that forward and wanted to do it. Like I said, we fully support it. I think it's important. But personally, I think we want to draw that line and be sure that the community knows that we're not asking our security officers to take on the job. We're not asking our cops to do, that we're asking every city employee to take a responsibility to care for each other, whether you're cutting the grass in the park and see someone who needs help, or you're a parking enforcement officer and see someone who needs help. And all those people can call these new workers in the new community department that we're building. And so I just want to be clear that we are investing in this plan, and we're setting money aside to be sure that it can be stood up as quickly as possible. And I appreciate the council's leadership and the administration's cooperation in figuring out a plan to put that money where we need it to have it so that we can grow that quickly. So I just want to make that clear, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, President Davis. Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to mention that in reading all of the proposals that came forward, the mayor's proposal, and then I know Councilor Davis worked on some stuff. And then, I'm sorry, my dog is starting to bark. Brittany, and also, you know, looking at all of these different ideas that came forward, I think everybody had the same intent, is to make the city a better place. And not just, I mean, for the homeless, also, we all recognize that there's a problem. And I'm sorry, I'm competing with my dog right now. So looking to the issue of homelessness, which we've all had our constituents talk to us about, and we've all had our separate issues, but also the whole issue of behavioral health. And not everybody who's homeless is mentally ill, and not everyone who's mentally ill is homeless. And I think that this new department really recognizes that. And it also, you know, we didn't all get our way in this. I would have liked to have seen a division. There are people who wanted a department, but you know, I think there's a lot of compromise, and this is a first step in a pathway forward. And I think it's important that that we, as a community, understand that really we're just taking a bite of the apple. And I know that the mayor wanted to be a lot more aggressive, which, you know, I respect. That I probably was a little more cautious. But I think that we've all sort of compromised in this particular final plan. So I'm excited to see how it operates. And I think that we've set some clear goalposts for, you know, evaluating as we move forward.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego. We have councilors starting to line up to speak, and we will get to you. I neglected, though, I think it really be important to have the people who've really crunched the issues and the numbers here on our behalf, councilors. And great new, relatively new addition to the council staff is Jesse Muniz. He's going to give us a rundown on this committee substitute and where we stand with it if we were to pass committee sub. And then we'll get back to councilors who have more questions. So, Mr. Muniz.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. Let's see, going to pull up something for you in a second. Okay, thanks, Julia. So we just wanted to highlight the changes that occurred with the new department and how it was kind of being structured from the original budget proposal. So we have a new department. Basically, it's made up of 3 management staff. We have a director, deputy director, and a management analyst. We did include a transfer of some COAST team members, as well as 3 members from Family and Community Services to make up the department to start. We included about $270,000 of operational funding. And we are initially proposing to reserve $1 million, which would be tied to some performance measures that would get reported to the council in January and April. The idea, and also will include a budget objective. The idea behind the objective is to, one, allow more input from the public, elected officials, and management of the city. We really wanted to get a clear development on the supervisor hierarchy in terms of positions coming into the department. And also we wanted to make sure we addressed any employment issues with the unions and with this. So again, basically the makeup is we're transferring $1.2 million from the original proposal of ACS. That would be for the personnel that we discussed, the management staff and the Coast and Family and Community. We would be transferring, looking to reserve $1 million for funding. And then again, $270,000 would be for operations for the department to kind of get things moving on that.
Mr. Muniz. We have a couple other counselors ready to speak on this or ask questions, and that would be starting with Councilor Gibson and then Councilor Sano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also really happy that and grateful to everybody who, including yourself, I think put a lot of work into this this amendment that will, particularly this particular part of the amendment. I stated, I think all along that I like the idea of where we're going, and I think that it's going to be really useful to the city in not only in the short term right away, but I think in long term, it's give us more of a way of planning, doing strategic planning to address a lot of the chronic issues that we have in the city, and some definitely that are growing. But the part that I wanted to add is that I think this alternative scenario also gives protection and consideration for employees coming over, particularly the security folks who would be moved over eventually. I like that we are giving time to really create a vision for what our expectations will be for them, and to then create some procedures and just a vision going forward, and then from that establish a training regime, which I think will be really, really useful. The example I give or think of in my mind is, the security folks who, are so good around our buildings, and very helpful. But I think it's a totally different job if they're being mobile out there in the the world, and the possibilities are likely possibilities, I guess, that are just so much greater and less controlled than they would be in a building or in Civic Plaza. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair, Councilor Davis, Councilor Borrego, all the other councilors who made some comments on this, really useful. I think this is really a great way to go, and I'm very happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. Next is Councilor Sano.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. I do want to just extend my appreciation to those that worked on this amendment, but also to really give thanks to Mariela, who initiated these conversations and did the community facilitations, brought community together, and thank the community as well. One thing I wanted to note was just so many wanted to, take a stab at this, really hash out the ideas of what it means to be a safer community. And so I just really want to thank all of them for stepping up and bringing their ideas forward. And, I think that by doing this, it does pay tribute to some of those comments, but, I would hope that, we still have more of an ability for community to have some say-so in this, because I know so many do. I spent this last week doing multiple ride-alongs with DMD Security that was doing the wellness checks on the so-called down and outs. I did it with transit. I did it with APD at both area commands and with AFR. And just speaking to community members, to those in the city, and getting their input, because I think that we all have a goal in that we want a safer Albuquerque. We all have different ideas of how we get there, but being able to actually drive that road and listen into what those that are actually doing the response, I was really appreciative of that. So I want to thank those that let me get a small glimpse of a ride along and day-to-day actions that they do. So I know that we'll be discussing even more as we go through the amendments, but I just wanted to extend my appreciation to the administration for initiating this conversation, and also for Mariela for being able to facilitate the discussions as well with community and starting that process. So thank you, and it really got all of us to think together and band together and bring an approach forward. So thank you.
You're here. Thank you, Councilor Sena. Next is Councilor Bassan, followed by Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm catching up on trying to read some of the amendments, and so I've decided now must be the time to share this rather than later. So I want to just get this out right now, and then I'll zip it later for the most part. But speaking with constituents and learning more about where they come from and what we're hoping to do, when this was first proposed to us by the administration, I distinctly remember actually shaking my hands and saying, yes, let's do this. This is awesome. So in regards to this new department, or whatever it's going to end up being called, I also remember following up with, if this department is going to turn into what is being proposed on this mission, that is what I can stand behind. And of late, with these budget documents, it is not appearing to be that way. And there's some rapid movement and development that's happening that I don't think is what I supported to begin with, but I was also now talking with some others and constituents, not just in my district, but from around, and many of them well respected. It's a concern that many people have, is where this is shaping up to go. So I'm happy to see a lot of the amendments that are being proposed here in a little bit, but I really do, I made a promise last night when asked, how do we know that we are going to be heard? When constituents said, how do we talk to the right people to be heard? And I want to give a few of the comments that I wrote down from this meeting that I attended, so that they know that I am following through. And I'm going to not share all of them because I don't know how appropriate it would be for some of the comments to be shared in this environment. But I do want you to be aware that there are more extreme comments that are said than what is this, but some of these, to me, very experienced and knowledgeable and well-trained, esteemed, intelligent, caring, genuine people have been looking at this program and developing it. And they claim, several of them said, this is insulting to social workers. That, and I have to say that I wonder on the other flip side, if some of the people moving into this department are going to be insulted in that maybe this isn't what they signed up for. But there was another one that was, we need to make sure that the city is cautious and does not overcommit. There's another one saying that we need to focus on matching funds available from the federal government so that we can really leverage the resources that are out there available to us. The city needs to refocus on its original mission and goals and not, well, I'm going to stop there because I made a promise not to get too crazy, but the city needs to refocus on its original mission and goals in regards to this department. People have expected that there would be more professionals already working on developing a step-by-step process for this department, or including maybe a pilot project where we start small and then start working our way up. And Mr. Chair, I just have 4 more and then I'll stop. But some people feel like the way that this is being proposed is that it is the setup to fail. And that means that they are worried that if this does fail on a nationwide model that we're trying to create here to really help human beings, that if this does set up to fail, then the crisis response teams are going to look foolish, like they don't work. And then where are we going to pick up the pieces after that? We need to I said leverage the resources already. And then the last one is somebody said there are thousands of social workers here in Albuquerque, and maybe beyond, because thousands is a lot, but I'm not well-versed in that. So many social workers that would really love to get a job with the city, to work in this department, to really help the people that need it. And I stand by all of these comments. I believe in them, I support them, and I'm really happy that it seems as though we're going to put some of the brakes on what is being proposed here. So that way we can really make a strong base and foundation so that we can set it up for the most success possible for everybody involved.
Thank you, Councilor Bassan. And I don't know if anyone from the administration would like to address that. I was under the impression that we need to build a pipeline of social workers and people to work on the streets and some of these conditions, and of course with the behavioral health and supporting the behavioral health initiative that we're a part of with the county. Is there anyone from the administration who could help us with that? Because that perception that we have thousands of people lined up that would like to be social workers, if so, I'm very pleased. But anyone from the administration could speak to that.
Councilor Benton, Chair, I think that there's still, we don't actually have an analysis of what the pipeline looks like right now. What we do know for a fact is, and this is what we heard last night as well, was that for a lot of social workers coming very fresh and green out of their BS, bachelor's of social work, or their master's of social worker, we didn't necessarily feel like that was this new safety department was a good fit for them to cut their teeth on. So although there's a lot of social workers that I think probably will qualify, I think it's going to take that additional expertise. However, in working with our schools of social work, with our NMHU and with NMSU, we have started to have conversations and started MOUs with the idea that they will help with training in the courses, right, through the course of those BSW and MSWs, to start training folks to be able to start creating, right, a pipeline for some of these jobs. Now, interesting enough though, during the time that we've started this department, I have received multiple, and I mean, I've got 20 sitting on my desk from different paraprofessionals, right? So prometoras or community workers, as well as even people who worked in the ambulance, it just really across the board, peer certified workers. So although yes, I think that there's a focus that we would bring on social workers, we know that there's a lot of community who still has the experience and the understanding and the education to be able to do this work. So it could be that we actually don't have a problem filling these positions, especially if we start them at a livable wage and more.
Thank you, Ms. Ruiz. That's helpful. And we do appreciate very much our partners at Highlands University who are really stepped up on this, on the pipeline, if we want to call it that. It's odd name, but that's a term that's used in the headhunting industry, right? And we're certainly looking for good heads to help us with these challenges. Let's move on then. Next is Councilor Pena, followed by Councilor Sena, and followed by Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to start, I was hoping that we'd go through the amendments first, but I just want to start by saying that, I really appreciate, what you've done here, but I do, have some concerns, and I'm going to take the liberty of discussing some stuff similar to what Councilor Bassan did. Actually, when you just said that this was a compromise, I wasn't involved in the compromise. So, I'm seeing this kind of for the first time last night. But I was like Councilor Bassan, I was excited because I thought as a city, you know, we're going to really take a bold move and we're going to take the bull by the horns and we're really going to try to address this and put this department together and get out there in the streets where we need to be helping people in crisis, right? So obviously, you know, there's concern and, you know, putting the brakes on it, I guess if it's a will of the council to do that, I mean, that's what needs to be done. I was more excited about, you know, just the underlying issues that we have in our community. This, to me, this is going to kind of delay implementation for a year, or it's going to have to come back and we're going to have to go next year to see if we're, what department, who are we going to put in, what money are we going to have next year. I'm kind of bummed. But, you know, and I just want to say, and I'm going to take the liberty of telling my story, is that, you know, this past weekend, I had a knock on the door from a young lady who came to my house, who had been walking on the streets for 2 days. And she came to my house and she's homeless. She's having some behavioral health issues and she's suffering from addiction. She comes to my house and she says that she really wants to get help. She doesn't know where to go or what to do, but she wants to get help. And this young lady used to suffer from addiction many, many years ago, over 10 years ago. And she actually got clean. Very proud of her. She went on to get her master's. She's been clean for 10 years, got her master's. She's working, doing social work. Unfortunately, from some recent turn of events, she found herself back addicted. And so she came to my house and she asked for help. So what I did, and this isn't a criticism of any of the institutions out there, but I'm just using it as an example of the crisis that we have in our community right now. I took her and I tried to get her into MATS. Unfortunately, I couldn't get her into MATS because of COVID. They were closed, and they had some recent outbreaks, right? So that's out of everyone's control. So then I went to try to get her at Turquoise Lodge, and to no success. Then what I needed to do is thank God for Director Pierce. I called her and I asked for a voucher. And as if anybody knows of anyone who's addicted, you actually have to get them right then and there, and you have to get them when they want the help. And there's really a window. And so anyway, got the voucher, got her a hotel room. I left the hotel room that evening very, very frightened that I didn't think she would be there in the morning, if you know how addiction works. So in the morning, she calls me. I go and I pick her up, and we're trying to find somewhere to take her. And so then I finally convinced her to go to UNMH Psychiatric Hospital. We get to UNMH Psychiatric Hospital, and after much dialogue and trying to get her in there, they finally say that they're going to admit her. The unfortunate thing is, due to COVID, she was told that she would have to take a COVID test and she would have to wait in the waiting room for 24 to 48 hours before they could admit her. She'd have to come out. And so, I mean, I couldn't wait for 24 to 48 hours. So, you know, she told me she was going to stay. I again, you know, I was worried she wouldn't. I stayed as long as I could. And she promised, and I went and I left there knowing that she wasn't going to stay. And so finally, you know, she didn't. She's back on the street. I don't know where she's at. And so, you know, I just really feel as a city, you know, if we're doing this, I obviously I wanted to do it right. You know, obviously people are entitled to having their concerns about how we're moving forward, but people are dying on the streets, you know, as we're making these decisions. So I'm just going to say that I was bummed because I was hoping that we were really going to do this, put it in place, put all our noggins together and get busy. So those are my concerns. And then just a brief pivot is that, you know, community policing is something that's working at APD. We're doing a phenomenal job. It's actually being recognized as a national model. And I am concerned when we're moving money from community policing somewhere else, when that's one of the good things, one of the bright shining stars that we do have. So again, I just want to say, to Councillor Benton, I appreciate, what you've done. And I just have some concerns with some of it. So thank you.
Thank you. And we will get to some of these questions as we go through the amendments. Councillor Sena, and then we do need to go ahead and vote on the substitute.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, just to note that we were discussing the pipeline, so I just said I have an amendment for something similar, but I just wanted to note that.
I'm sorry, I had a little glitch there. Was there a question there, Councillor Sena?
No, I just wanted to mention that I do have an amendment that would speak to what you were addressing. So I wanted to hold my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councillor Borrego.
Thank you, Councillor. I just wanted to clarify to Councillor Pena, when I said a compromise, what I meant was a compromise between the sponsors, because we all had different proposals. So it's the sponsors that were as we brought it forward, were sort of compromising on, because I actually was more conservative and wanted just a division. And, I know that other councillors wanted an entire department. So, I mean, I feel like I compromised and said, okay, because I felt like, other, and including the mayor's proposal, people wanted a department. And so that's what I meant when I said that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Chair, if I could respond to that. Councillor Borrego, I wasn't referring to you. I was actually speaking about Councillor Benton. He said that this was a compromise. So it had nothing to do with your comments. Thank you.
I think it was actually Councillor Borrego who said it was a compromise. Definitely when there are, just to be clear to the public and everyone, when we're doing this kind of work and there's a proposed floor substitute, we're not really allowed to, by the Open Meetings Act with a rolling quorum prohibition, we're not allowed to have more than 4 councillors on a discussion of this specificity. So just wanted to be clear about that. And so, yeah, certainly there were discussions amongst the sponsors and then subsequently amongst the sponsors and the administration on this. So I don't see anybody else. We do have the floor subs. There's been a motion and a second for the substitution. And Ms. Ortega, call the roll.
Councillor Bassan.
Ms. Ortega, I just want to confirm we're going just for Amendment A. Are we on that yet?
No, we must first vote on the committee substitute before we begin on the amendments. So the vote I'm taking now is on the committee substitute to R98.
Thank you to make me sure. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
No.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Committee sub passes on an 8-1 vote.
All right, thank you, councillors. We'll now move to the amendments. And we'll just get started with the committee amendment. This is labeled A in the packet. This would be committee amendment number 1. And I'm the sponsor, and this states on page 2, strike lines 5 through 9. On page 2, line 13, strike the term with the acronym HHELP and replace with new department. On page 2, line 13, increase the amount by $1 million. On page 2, after line 13, insert the following. Of this amount, $1 million is designated as operating funding for the new department to be expended with the approval of the City Council upon receipt of quarterly reports on the status of the development of the department as required by budget objective contained in R 2099. And this amendment removes the reserve for the new department and instead appropriates it directly to the department. And expenditure of these funds shall occur only after approval from the city council based on the developing needs of the department. And that will probably be occurring towards the end of next year, as far as we know. But that's committee amendment number 1. Is there a second? Councilor Borrego is a second. Thank you, Councilor. And Ms. Ortega. Well, let's hear if there's any discussion about that. So part of this was when we originally talked about this, there was discussion about a naming of the department or something like that. This is really up to the way that this develops. And so we're just calling it the new department for the time being. And Councilor Gibson has her hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I understand item 4, designating the $1 million as operating funding. So does that go into a reserve account? Am I missing something? Or is that just appropriated?
It does not. This amendment does adjust that original concept of some sort of reserve. What it's really doing is saying that this is appropriated, but that those funds would not be expended in advance of the approval of the plan by the council.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question that I think needs to be clarified just before we vote on this. Can we have council staff explain to us if this passes? I'm looking down later at other amendments, particularly Amendment F. How is it different from this one if this one were to pass and then we move on to item F and if that one were to pass?
I'll ask Mr. Muniz to address that.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. Councilor Brisson? Yes, so Amendment 1 or Amendment A that we're looking at basically takes money out of reserve and appropriates it directly with some contingencies. The amendment that you're talking about later does in fact add another $1 million to the new department's budget.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may follow up with that. Thank you. Mr. Muniz, so if we were to add, so we're taking out the $1 million from reserve instead of leaving it in reserve, but if we were to add the other $1 million, what would be the total? Are we talking like about 2.5 million or 3.5 million? If all of this passes that's being presented now.
Mr. Muniz.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. Councilor Bassan, yes, it would be $3.471 million in the budget.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right. Any other questions on the amendment or discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Davis,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson,
Yes,
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor Jones,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Sena,
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Amendment 1 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is the item labeled B in the packet. This would be committee amendment number 2, and this is sponsored by Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe this is related to the item we dealt with earlier related to the solid waste fees that we've already passed. And so this just adopts that here as well. So I'd move committee amendment number 1, excuse me, number 2.
All right. I'll
And since
second
we-
that.
Thanks. I was going to say, since we passed it before, I guess we have to do it here. Somebody has to second
Yeah.
it for us. Thanks.
So I'll second that. Any discussion on the, this is the Clean Cities fees? Seeing none, Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Davis,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson,
yes,
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Peña,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Amendment 2 passes unanimously.
The next amendment is labeled C in your packet. This would be committee amendment number 3. Counselor Sena.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. Committee amendment number 3. On page 4, line 12, entitled "The Office of Equity and Inclusion," increase the amount by 123,000. The explanation for this is this was a technical amendment requested by the Budget Office, which will move the salary of OEI's Aura coordinator 8 months and special pay for the Tribal Affairs liaison full year from the Kellogg grant to the grant's operating fund 265 to the general fund of 110. This amendment will also increase the salary amount of the African American Affairs liaison 8 months. To achieve pay equity with the Tribal Affairs liaison, this amendment will increase the reoccurring annual cost to the general fund and future operating budgets to 242.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Counselor Gibson. And any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Peña,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next will be labeled D in the packet. This would be committee amendment number 4. Counselors Gibson and Bassan.
Go ahead, Counselor Gibson. I'll let you, I'd hope that you would do this, please.
Oh, thank you very much. So this is on item 1 on page 2, after line 9, insert a new section as follows. Section 3, that the amount of $58,600 is hereby reserved for the purpose of providing a one-time lump sum payment to city employees who earn less than $15 per hour to mitigate the economic effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. This amendment, the explanation is this amendment does appropriate $58,600 from the available fund balance, non-recurring, in the general fund and place that money in reserve for the disbursement of a one-time lump sum payment to city employees earning less than $15 hourly.
Thank you, Counselor Gibson. And we have a second from Counselor Bassan. Any discussion, counselors? Seeing none, Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Chair Benton,
Yes.
this is Lawrence in the budget conference room. A quick clarifying question. Is this pertain to full-time employees and part-time, both counselors? Gibson?
I think that this question might be answered best by Ms. Yara or Mr. Muniz.
Yes, Mr. Chair, counselors, this is actually Mr. Davis from your salary master. I sorted all employees that made under $15 an hour. I believe those are not temporary employees, if I'm right.
Okay, we'll look at that. Yeah, I think we do have part-time, some part-time non-equivalent FTEs in there, but we could look at it. I think the intent's FTE, correct?
I think it's just for employees who make a wage less than $15 an hour, regardless of their status. If I would defer to the sponsors on that one.
Okay, yeah, because we have a lot of seasonal and temporary employees that would make under the $15 an hour, which is just the reason for the clarifying question, Chair Benton. So, sorry.
Thank you. It's an important point. Do we need to clarify that? The sponsors wish to clarify.
Well, I would offer that since that, Mr. Chair, I would offer that since that was the tool that we used, that we include everyone in that search. All 586 people appeared doing that simple search. And, I would suggest that would be the answer to that question. Anybody who appeared in that search, we did a most general search, just saying 15, with the only criteria at 15 an hour. So whether that be part-time or seasonal, it would be $100 bump.
All right. Is your co-sponsor okay with that? Otherwise, we can just
Yes,
amend
Mr.
this.
I am okay with that. The intent was to, take a tiny little nibble and help out where we could with people that were under a certain wage that work in the city.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's clear. We'll make sure that's reflected in the final enrolling of this amendment. Any other discussion, councilors? Councilor Davis.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I haven't been able to find a copy of the amendment, and I was hoping one of the sponsors could just clarify the source of the funding for me. It just wasn't clear on my end with barking dogs and other things.
It's coming from the non-recurring available fund balance.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? Seeing none. Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan,
Yes.
Councillor Borrego,
Yes.
Councillor Davis,
Yes.
Councillor Gibson,
Yes.
Councillor Harris,
Yes.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Pena,
Yes.
Councillor Senna,
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right. So we will now move to the item labeled E in the packet, which is committee amendment number 5. And this is sponsored by Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, line 28, entitled Council Services, increase the amount by $30,000. The amendment appropriates $30,000 from available fund balance in the general fund for 2 partnerships with the School of Public Administration. And basically this would work. They have a program that they're actually working on to create mentorships for graduate students to work with local agencies. And it would allow for 2 students to work with different departments and in their program.
All right, and we have a second from Councilor Jones. Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion on this would be committee amendment number 5? Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan,
I'm so sorry. I got kicked out. So I was getting back in. I'm having some technical difficulties tonight. This
That's all right.
This is for the intern?
Yes, these are for 2 interns, Counselor, from the School of Public Administration.
it's committee amendment number 5, labeled E.
Mr. Chair, may I please ask a question since
Yes,
I got
please.
kicked out? Thank you very much. I'm concerned, being that we're not even in the office. I don't, what are they going to do?
There's 2, we've had this program before, Counselor, and what they do is they work with 2 departments to mentor the students. They would work academically, but they would also be receiving a small amount of money to come into the office and help. And so it would be $15,000 each, which is a very small amount for a semester.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilor Jones has a question.
Mr. President, I was trying to raise my hand a couple times and didn't get there. So my question is the same. It says this is for general fund of the Council Services Department. So again, if we can't go into our department and we can't have people in the office, what are we going to do with the people? I think it's a great project, but do we have the ability, if we can't do it to hold it over to the next, what are we going to do with it? I'm just concerned that we're funding something, not a lot of money, I agree, but how are we going to make it work?
Let me ask you about it.
Counselor, there's a program that the School of Public Administration has developed that they have to work with, that they have deliverables to be academic and work related. So they have to produce. And so if there's research to be done, we've had one this year at APD, and they have deliverables that they have, and plus they have to write a paper at the end of the semester explaining their experience and their mentorship.
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask again, if we can't socialize and we can't interact, what are we going to have them do? How can they interview people in departments or whatever she's assigned to? How, and again, it's not a lot of money. I just think, does it make sense this year? But I guess we reverted. We just use it for something else if we don't do that. But I'm concerned about how we make this work if we still can't interact personally.
And what you mentioned, Councilor Jones, I wanted to ask, if for some reason we're not able to fill these positions, I think it's correct, they would be reverted. I just checked with council staff on that, and that's correct. Obviously, there's probably not always a person to fill a slot or a slot to fill that person at the university. And that typically how it has worked in the past, but that's helpful at all. But any other questions, Councilor Jones? We do have Councilor Bassan also.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, again, I agree too, this is not a lot of money and I'm all for it in certain theories, but which departments could we put them in right now? Where would?
Councilor Bassan, the program already has identified departments, and there's already managers that are interested in these, from my understanding of the program. And so they're ready to start in January.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, do we know which departments those are? And if we do, can we have city administration just let us know, yes, we're on board, we really want this, so that we can work for that and we can try. But right now it just seems like it's vague. And so I want to make sure that it
really isn't vague. It's only the information that I sent to you that's vague. But I actually interviewed the woman this week that has set up the program. And so it's not just the city of Albuquerque that they're asking. They're looking, to help these students. We can send you that information if you'd like.
Okay, any other discussion, councilors? And I did confirm with council staff that were there to be obstacles in these funds being expended, they would revert. Council Clerk Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, that takes us to the item labeled F in your packet. This would be committee amendment number 6, Councilor Sena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move committee amendment number 6 on page 2, line 13, entitled HHELP department, now new department. Increase the amount by 1 million. On page 2, after line 13, add the following language. The amount of 1 million is hereby designated for employee training and educational programs to include, but not limited to, mental health, social work, public health, community health, and other related fields or areas designed to help meet the mission and vision of the new department. The programs shall be made available to current city employees and new employees as they are added to the department. The explanation for this is this amendment would increase the department's appropriation to $2,471,000. 1 million of the appropriation would be directly related to educational and training programs designed to train employees in the field of social work, mental health, and public health. This is what we were discussing earlier about possibly a pipeline, and this would help those that are already in the city who do want to transition, but maybe they need a certificate, some more additional training, or even those that are lined up, that we give them some of that educational support.
Thank you, Councilor Sena. And is there a second? Councilor Bassan, thank you. And if I could, Councilor Sena, just a couple, just because of the previous floor amendment and substitute, we are going to change the nomenclature to new department for now, in the absence of a consensus about a name yet. So if that's all right with you, we'll administratively make that amendment and see if there's any other discussion. Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilor Sena, I like this idea of training. I definitely think that we need more training. I just want to know how we're going to make sure it's the right training rather than maybe an internet certificate, or because as we both have been made very aware of, we want really qualified experts. So I in theory am good with this, but I'm just really confused, concerned that it's not going to be adequate training. So I don't know if there's a way that we can put some detail in there and fine tune it. I'm certainly no expert with behavioral health. So I would definitely have to defer, whether it's to Ms. Ruiz Angel, or if it's somebody else in the administration, or even you, that what should we do to make sure that it's not just kind of a lower end training when what we're looking for is quality out of this.
Mr. Chair, can I respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councilor. Yes, just to clarify too, this was to hope that as soon as we finalize those MOUs with Highlands University, we can give, whether it's tuition reimbursement, just as we do with APD's programming. This speaks to that. I wanted to keep it really broad because, I didn't want to focus it mostly on MSW programs, for example, like the Masters in Social Work, because there are other programs that speak to that same mission. It's licensed counselors, for example, and if it's just a recertification, if they weren't practicing for a while and they have to get recertified, it's examples like that. But those that actually are laying out this program, like the program director, program managers, they would actually have some oversight over that. So I don't want to speak too much into the detail without, speaking for someone else, but the mission of this amendment was to say that, as soon as we get those MOUs with the universities that do these programs, that we can give, tuition reimbursement, for example, as an incentive to join this department. But from what it sounds like, as was stated earlier, that multiple people are really lined up. But, I always say that a lot of social workers don't do social work because of the pay, it's because of the passion. And because of that, I think, we should contribute some to their education.
Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am happy to sponsor a resolution later with this once we have the MOUs and once we have some developments, but I am really not fond of vague. And that I think is part of what got us into this situation that we have with the department. And so please, I can't support this amendment, but I would be willing to do a resolution or something, or support a resolution later with more details so that we can indeed find some way to help.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Muniz just to clarify how this would reflect the overall department budget. I believe this would effectively add $1 million to the 2.471. I think the explanation on the amendment is not quite accurate. Mr. Renees?
Thank you, Councilor Benton. Yes, I just wanted to make a clarification technically. The explanation would read, this amendment would increase the new department appropriation to $3,471,000. So this would be in addition to the $1 million that we appropriated with Amendment A, or the first amendment. So it would be a $3.4 million budget.
Thank you, Mr. Renees. Councilor Bassan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm struggling because I really want training for all of these people to make this work, but is there a way that we could put this in reserve? I am learning all of the budget stuff. I'm learning how this, I'm sorry to be naive, but I am. So I don't know if there's a way to put this $1 million into reserve so that way pending council approval or, the proper evidence that it's not just basic training, but maybe basic. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, Councilor Bassan, I'm going to ask Ms. Yara to try to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Councilor Bassan. We're trying to avoid actually making reserves beyond the required 1/12 reserve for we want to make sure that we're in compliance with some of the other funding that we've received from the federal government, and the guidance on those funds is changing almost every day, and there's some concern about basically putting into reserve some money when, anyway, we've already accepted some CARES money, et cetera. So that's the reason we thought that in the first amendment, of course, there's some contingency language that would require approval of council for that first $1 million. This one is not as defined that way, but I think Ms. Ruiz would be able to fold this into the plan when we get to the objective that's related to this new department. As far as her report, the reporting of the committee to you, as far as, excuse me, I just had a total blank. So that I just want to make clear that this other $1 million, if you'd like, they do need to report their status of the development of the new department to you, and you could include this as part of that contingency if that was the will of the council. Sorry for my delay there.
So yeah, thank you, Ms. Yara, and you've been working very hard, so I completely understand how you would go blank at this point of the process. Yes, so the language that was included, we had language in committee amendment number 1, Councilor Sena, if this would be acceptable to you, that we could unfold that type of language, which was on part number 4 on committee amendment number 1, and that would, as opposed to describing it as a reserve, this would be a way of dealing with it.
And well, Mr. Chair, I see that Ms. Ruiz Angel is there, but I do want to just mention that we have passed other funding appropriations, such as 10 million, without having certain details. So I understand that hesitation is there, but without actually me having an in-depth expertise in social work or behavioral health, but certainly in public health, that I can speak to what trainings would include. So rather than me speaking out of my own expertise, I would rather defer that to them. But just to note that, we, right now, this new department is just with this appropriation, it's a little over 3 million. And so, as we were talking with other groups that were saying that even 7 million was a slap to the face to them. And again, this was what they were saying and not myself. So, this is to really bolster that and our commitment to saying that we do want to create a pathway for social workers, behavioral health workers, and public health workers, promotoras, to be a part of this program. But again, if we're not giving them the pay that they, truly deserve in a livable wage, then we should commit to at least paying portions of their schooling. So with that, I would like to turn that to Ms. Ruiz Angel so that she can give a little bit more detail as to, what kind of trainings or educational programs are available.
Ms. Ruiz?
So I think in partnership with community, it will definitely, we know that there's going to be a safety component that a lot of these professionals don't have, right? We are still going to be considered an alternative to 911. So we need to be able to have safety procedures, but that is something that can be done in-house and we do it well. However, the additional training that we don't offer in-house and we have done through different departments is things like implicit bias training and sorry.
So let me just interrupt for a second here. This is Sarita. My understanding of this was really to work on things like the pipeline projects that we discussed when we first launched the department. So making sure that the educational sort of bigger educational requirements that we would want, whether that be a licensed mental health counselor or social worker or case management professionals, might have some sort of tuition reimbursement or other education related incentive to come join this department, because we know that there is high competition for these professionals in our community. I think that in those, if that is the idea, then we would be using external certifications and programs that, we would, as we do when we do other tuition reimbursement programs in the city, which have existed for a long time and have their own vetting process. If that is the goal, though, I would recommend that these funds be non-reverting, because we're not going to get $1 million out in this type of program in the next 8 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nair. We have Councilor Jones, followed by Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a lofty goal, and I'm certain that we will need some training, but this is a department or whatever we're going to call it, whether we're going to call it a full department or not. I thought that was under discussion. But at this point in time with the COVID situation and people not working, and I know we have a lot of issues with homeless and people who need our help, but we also have a lot of people, I am confident, who are out of work, who are social workers, who are medical care people, who will fill some of this staffing, who won't need training. And I believe this is a lofty goal to throw out $1 million to add to a program that we've already put $2 million in, that we don't even know what it's going to do, when it's going to get started, or how quickly it will be ramped up. I would certainly, Councilor Sena, like to see this come in our next budget if we have this program running the way we have planned and the way we would like to see it set out. But so far, we don't have really great track record on some of the programs that we start up. I could talk about one that I think I put in an ordinance maybe 3 years ago or so that is just now adding 2 or 3 people to it. So I think, as much as I think it's a good idea, I think it's premature to put that kind of money aside when we have, I'm sure, a large number of people out there who are trained, who are experienced, who would step up to do this kind of work. So I won't be supporting this, but I think I would like to see it come back in the next budget cycle, when we know whether this department is even going to be kept alive and stepped in. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be the end of my speaking for this one. As we just passed it, there's 13 people moving into, I believe, if I'm correct, there's 13 people that are going to move into this department. And I don't see how another $1 million to train people right now, when we only have 13 moving in, is necessary. So I will wait until we have more details so that I can be more confident with it and we can go on further. next year when we can get this ball rolling and start a really strong foundation, which is what I think people are looking for.
Thank you. Counselor Sena and then Counselor Pena.
Mr. Chair, I'll let Counselor Pena go ahead of me and I'll use my time to close on the amendment.
All right, thank you. Counselor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that, you know, I think that this is really creative. This kind of goes back to what I was saying. If we're going to do this department, let's do it right. And let's put the right resources in there so that we can get our boots on the ground. So I'll be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Counselors, any other discussion? If not,
Counselor, can I
yes, please. I'm sorry. I forgot you've got to close. Thank you, Counselor Sena.
Thank you. So again, as we were talking about this new department and thinking of how it will be staffed, we spend a lot more than the $1 million in recruitment. We have been talking about how, we hope to raise the pay for our engineers or our planners, and we're trying to recruit them to come work for the city. And let's be clear, this work for this department is going to be tough. That they have to, again, be very passionate. And from my encounter of those that work in behavioral health, mental health, social work, public health, it's because of the passion. And because of this passion, we should be able to, again, create this pathway. If we want a strong foundation, let's recruit that. This $1 million goes towards that recruitment, that we say that, yes, we know you have that passion. And although we are going to give you this salary, that may not compensate you for the full work that you're about to do, because again, this type of work is rough. It takes a lot of heart, it takes a lot of courage. And we've seen it because, a lot of other departments have been responding to these calls. And it's not to say that they don't have the passion, but again, it's because these individuals whom we wish to recruit is because of their education. So let's pay for it. Let's have that pipeline. Let's have that pathway so that it's easy for those that wish to serve in this new department can. If they're already within the city and they need additional credits, or maybe, they still pay on their student loans. I mean, I know I still am, because again, a lot of them are in that situation. They're still paying on their student loans. So I'm urging you to support this. Again, it's only $1 million. It shouldn't be reverting, because we need a strong foundation. This new department needs to start somewhere. And if we can actually have a way that's easy for others to come along, whether it's, already working through the city or through MSW program, BSW program, licensed counselors, they should be able to be compensated as such. And we pay a lot more for other recruitment programs. So I urge your support.
All right, thank you, Counselor Sena. And Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
No.
Counselor Borrego,
No.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
No.
Counselor Harris, Counselor Harris,
No.
Counselor Jones,
No.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
That fails on a 4-5 vote.
Counselors, will move to the item labeled G in your packet. This would be committee amendment number 7. And this is by Counselors Harris and Borrego.
Counselor Harris, do you want to read this or do you want me to read it? I'll read it. On page 2, line 32, entitled Community Events, increase the amount by $15,000. And this amendment is for the Festival Ballet. And the total amount for this would be $40,000. It would increase from $25,000.
And is there a second? Counselor Harris, I assume?
Yep.
All right. And counselors, any discussion on this committee amendment number 7 for Festival Ballet? Counselor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there, I mean, do they need the money? Did they reach out to us? Did they? Can we
Yes, they did reach out
hear
to
about
us.
it a little bit? Okay, thank you.
And they're also doing, we had Patricia Dickinson, I think at the last budget meeting or last council meeting, they're doing the Shakespeare outdoors. And it's going to be a little bit more difficult. They need some funding for that. You're going to do a drive-in, I say Shakespeare, sorry, the Nutcracker and Land of Enchantments are doing it as a drive-in.
All right, thanks, counselors. Other discussion? Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes,
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, the last amendment in the packet is labeled H. This would be committee amendment number 8, and this is by Counselor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually don't have an order. Give me 1 second so I can pull it back up. This one's labeled what? H?
This is labeled H. I can read it if you like, Counselor Pena, and you can take it from there.
I've got it.
Okay.
So on page 9, after line 18, insert a new section as follows: decrease the amount in section 6. It is the intent of the city council to prioritize any future COVID-19 related federal assistance received by the city to provide additional compensation to city essential workers who have continued providing services to residents for the duration of the pandemic in compliance with the federal guidelines related to such funding: solid waste collection drivers, ABQ ride motor coach operators, and Sunvan chauffeurs. This amendment sets a policy of the council to provide additional compensation to essential workers from any possible future federal COVID assistance received within the guidelines set for such assistance. I urge your support.
There's a second by Counselor Borrego. Any discussion, counselors? I did have one question, Counselor Pena, just the language in it on the second line of the amendment. It says prioritize any future COVID. It sort of sounds like all, or would you be amenable to striking the word any and just say prioritize, I don't know, some, or I'm not sure how that would, and maybe it's not an issue. I'll ask staff.
I don't know. Yeah, I would say that that's the question, Mr. Chair, for staff, because any would be, I mean, if we receive 2 federal, I mean, whatever federal package we receive.
Possible, or yeah,
Mm,
prioritize.
Maybe
Yeah.
Miss Yada can help us out with that.
Yeah, Chair Benton and counselors, I drafted this not knowing whether or not we would receive any additional assistance from the federal government, given the election and everything else after that. So it was just really targeted at any future funding that would apply to such compensation. I'm not sure if future guidelines would prohibit us from doing this or not. So it was just kind of setting a priority to tell the council, look, let's think about providing some additional compensation, similar to maybe hazard pay to these folks who have been working since March for us. So
Sure.
I think you're open to changing the language if it makes more sense. So.
Yeah, I really understand and appreciate the intent. So we'll think on that just a little bit. And we have Counselor Davis and Counselor Bassan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask the sponsor sort of, if there was a reason that we thought this was necessary now, and I want to raise, like, I don't believe this is all the list of the essential employees that might be included. I'm thinking particularly about parks employees that have been retasked with extra cleaning of playgrounds and picking up trash on a more regular basis. Other employees that are delivering food, for example, when that's not their normal job. So I think there's a longer list, but I also want to, especially in blue collar workers, but I'm also just worried that at the moment, there's no indication that there's new money coming. And by the time, if and when it ever does, and I'm skeptical given how Congress operates, I just want to be sure that this is not going to hamstring us if we have other priorities. For example, we're in the middle of the largest COVID spike we've seen. And quite frankly, I would argue that today, we're all a big fan of our city employees and are working through the budget to figure out how to keep them employed. But our biggest priority right now, for instance, is the public health requirements. And it may be that we need to purchase additional PPE, for example, to limit the spread. And so I wonder sort of why we think we need this now for future money that may not exist, and if we might be able to consider this at a time down the road. I also want to ask, and just to put all my questions on the table, we've heard from the administration and advisors to the administration in the past that we were not able to do hazard pay or special pay increases for persons just because they were doing COVID-related work, that was prohibited under the federal guidelines. And so is there a new determination that that's now allowable? And if so, should we revisit some of the other proposals we had earlier for that?
That was like 82 questions.
I just wondered, should we do this right now, or can we wait till we actually have some new money to have that discussion, depending on what the priorities are?
Councilor Pena?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Actually, I just think that it should be a priority. It doesn't mean that we're going to have the resources to fund it or anything else later on, but I think it should be a priority. We need to recognize that while we've been safe in our homes, there's been people who have been out there, just like we were talking about hazard pay for other folks. There's been folks that are out there, performing their duties 364 days a year. So, I just thought that it's something that we should look at when and if this money comes. And if it doesn't come, then any of those questions that you had and saying that it doesn't look like we may, then we have nothing to worry about. And in terms of federal guidelines, it's not necessarily with necessarily even talking about hazard pay. This would be just an increase in their salary for, what they've done. When we talk about, people who, everywhere throughout the nation, we're talking about who the real heroes are, and these are some of them. And if you want to add to it, I'm more than happy to add to this list. But these are folks that I know that have, and if there's more that I know, then definitely add them. Make an amendment to add them.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't belabor the point. We have other amendments. I just think that I agree. I think there's some questions about whether we can say that we want to use COVID funds for that in the past where they haven't, but I do think it is a priority that we should take care of our employees. I don't think the list, I think we could expand the list, and we've talked about a lot of them. And so if this is going to be the list, I might suggest that it might be better suited to bring it back at a later time as a standalone resolution through the regular process, so that we can work with all of our labor unions, work with city HR to determine who might be eligible for this, because I think the pool is much larger. I agree with the principle. I like the idea. I know Councilor Gibson had a similar proposal to look at how to help lowest wage workers in the city. And we're all looked at that. So I just might think I like it. I just think it might need a longer list, and we could do that at another time. So, again, defer to the sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually, I can update it by Monday's meeting, so I can submit it as an amendment for Monday's meeting. I think that would be appropriate, and it'd be the will of the council at that point. So I know if I put it in as a resolution, my chances are slimmer.
Thank you. We do have Councilor Bassan, followed by Councilor Borrego, lined up to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out, I think there might be a clerical error on here, just to put it on the record, that we need to change and take out decrease the amount in after follows. I don't think that's supposed to be there.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Councilor Bassan, that's an error. I was using a previous amendment when I wrote this, and another glitch.
It's okay. I just wanted to point it out. Thank you.
Make a clerk's correction on that. Thank you.
Counselor Borrego.
I think that this is a good proposal. I think that we need to put this in now. But I do think it needs to be expanded, Councilor Pena, because I think there are other workers that, you know, and I don't know if we could expand it now or if we should wait till Monday night. But I do think that there are other types of workers out there that, you know, we really need to be considering. And I'm probably a little more optimistic than Councilor Davis. I do think that at some point in time, or especially since COVID is increasing again, I think we're going to have to work really hard to, well, not us, but Washington DC is going to have to work really hard to get us some additional funding.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Councilor Borrego. And I think what I'd like to do is just hold off on this and I'll bring it back at Monday's meeting.
All right, thank you, Councilor Pena. That is our last amendment in the packet. And that will bring us back to the bill as substituted and amended. And we'll need a vote on that. Councilors, any other discussion on the bill as amended? And seeing none, Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes,
R98 passes unanimously as substituted and amended.
thank you. And I will move immediate action for R98 for Monday night. Is there a second? Councilor Sena, thank you. And any discussion? Councilors, Ms. Ortega will call the roll.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes,
9-0. Thank you.
yes. Councilors, we're going to take a break of 15 minutes and we'll be back at 7 o'clock. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're back and we have two remaining items for tonight. The first one is R99. This is establishing the one-year objectives for the city to meet our 5-year goals. I'll move a do pass.
Second.
Second from Councilor Harris. Thank you. And we do have a packet of amendments that we'll work through now. The first is the longest one. This is the one that lays out in some detail what the council would hope to see if passed as we move forward with the new department. And so it creates that budget priority for the public safety goal to require more planning and discussion regarding the structure and operation of the new department. This will include the establishment of an advisory committee comprised of key city staff and community stakeholders. Quarterly reports from the committee shall be presented to the council in January 2021 and in April 2021. The city council will consider the information provided in the quarterly reports to approve the use of the allocated funding for the new department as the plan is developed and implemented. So this would be committee amendment number 1, labeled A in your packet. And we have some discussion. Councilor, let's see here. Councilor Davis.
Just offering a second, Mr. Chair, my part.
Oh, okay, thank you. I believe we have Councilor Borrego next.
Councilor Benton, I just wanted to offer a friendly amendment to this amendment. I wanted to pull the explanation from the body, pull from the explanation into the body, the last 2 sentences. Oh, hold on a second. Let me just double check if this is the right one. Hold on 1 second. I'm checking to see. I think it's actually the next amendment. No, it's this one. It is this one. I'm sorry. It is this one. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I got a little confused there. So I want to pull the explanation from the body into the body. Pull the explanation. Stephanie, can you help me with this? The last 2 sentences and pull them into the body of it.
So that the sentences beginning with quarterly reports and then the council will consider.
Yes, so pull that into the body of this amendment.
All right. I don't see, is there any issue with that?
No, we can do that.
Okay. All
So
right.
just a friendly amendment, if that's okay.
Yeah, that just kind of further clarifies the process once it gets back to the council. So I'll consider that a friendly amendment. Anyone else interested? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan,
Yes.
Councillor Borrego,
Yes.
Councillor Davis,
Yes.
Councillor Gibson,
Yes.
Councillor Harris,
Yes.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Pena,
Yes.
Councillor Senna,
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes,
Amendment 1 passes unanimously.
thank you. The next amendment is labeled B in the packet. This will be amendment number 2. And this reads as follows. Develop a plan on page 5 after line 12, develop the following, or insert the following, insert the following. Objective 3, develop a plan to address the backlog of median improvement work with consideration for equity among council districts based on need as reflected by the extent of backlog per district. Submit a report to the city council by December 31st, 2020. This is an objective for solid waste. And counselors, there's in the explanation, it gives a breakdown of the amount of acres of median acreage in need of renovation and rehabilitation. And we have a second from Councilor Bassan. Thank you. And any discussion on this? We appreciate the work done by Solid Waste Department. They really are constantly picking away at this. So thanks, Ms. Ortega. Call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson, Counselor Gibson. Thank you. Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes,
Passes unanimously.
thank you. The next amendment is labeled C. This would be committee amendment number 3. And this is sponsored by myself and Counselor Jones, having to do with the golf program. Counselor Jones, you want to move it, or I'll move it and
I will,
can
Mr. President. I move approval.
and I'll second that. Thank you. And this states as follows: object in page 8, after line 28, insert the following. Objective 16, commission an update to the 2017 golf course study that includes an analysis of the related real estate value of the properties, in addition to revisiting options for alternative management models. Submit a report to the City Council by the end of the third quarter of FY21. And counselors, Counselor Jones and I were interested in this because of the administration's intent to move this into the general fund, where it would no longer be an enterprise fund. And I think it's timely to, especially given that we look at what is the future of the golf program. We know that as an enterprise fund, it was regularly subsidized by the general fund. And we also know that the study that was conducted did indicate that we were on the low side compared to competing cities, but also competing local entities who operate golf courses. And I think I personally would say that because of going into the general fund, I had a bit of trepidation that it would not be as clear as every year goes by the amount of subsidy that's going into golf. And I love golf. I'm a golfer. My dad was a scratch golfer. He came in second in the country club tournament when he was 19 years old, and then again at the age of 55. Both times ended up second, but pretty good golfer. But I mean, it is a wonderful game, but it's expensive to operate golf courses, no question about it. Maintenance and keeping them in top shape is important. Some of the golf courses, one of the golf courses, Ladera, does sort of triple duty. It's an event center. It's also a serves flood control functions, and I think that's probably true of Bear Canyon as well. But we do have great courses. We have great city employees that work on and maintain them, and then of course their operations have been contracted out to people who are have the expertise of operating golf courses. But this is really just taking another look at that golf study, and so that we can think again about the fees that we're charging, and then really, because these are such large areas of our city, what, if any, are there any real estate opportunities with any of these golf courses? So that's what it's about. And Councilor Bassan has let to speak.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Councilor Jones, I'm grateful that you came up with middle ground on this one, because I had several constituents reach out and say, why, what? how. And so I really want to express that I think this is going to be a good way to answer to my constituents, at least why we choose to go whichever direction hopefully now gets recommended. So thanks.
Any other counselors have any comments or questions? If not, Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego, Counselor Borrego.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yeah.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes,
Passes unanimously.
thank you. Next is labeled D. This is committee amendment number 4, sponsored by Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this, it is the objective number 5 would provide monthly reports to the City Council regarding the status of the distribution of housing vouchers. Those reports would exclude statistics on the demographics anticipated reversions for unused vouchers, and an assessment of whether some of the changes in the vendor rules might improve distribution of those vouchers. I would move committee amendment. Did you say number 4, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thanks.
And a second from Counselor Sena. And any discussion, counselors? Counselor Borrego. I guess she was offering a second. Any other discussion, counselors? I think this is important that we try to help with this. We've also within the substitution, I believe we've got a couple of positions that we're offering to the Department of Family and Community Services to help get these vouchers out the door. I don't see any other comments, so Ms. Ortega to call the roll.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, next is labeled E in the packet, and it would be committee amendment number 5, Counselor Borrego.
Thank you, Counselor. This basically is establishing a partnership with Bernalillo County, the New Mexico Department of Transportation, and other local agencies for the development of and encampment cleanup programs for city streets and highways. And they already do this to some extent, but this is formalizing that. Partnership shall include input from the city and county behavioral health staff, submit a status report on the effort to the City Council by the end of the third quarter of FY21. And that would be municipal development, since they're the ones that go out and with solid waste and other departments. And so this is kind of cost sharing.
Okay. And let's see, there was a motion, and is that a second from Counselor Jones?
Yes, it is.
All right. Thank you, Counselor Jones. We have Counselor Pena, and followed by Counselor Sena.
So I don't know if this even relates. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't even know if this relates to this amendment. I support the amendment, but maybe at Monday's meeting can offer up another amendment that actually, my concern always with cleanup of homeless camps is that, then we have to develop programs to help them get their driver's license back and to get their birth certificate, so I get kind of, I wish we could develop something that would help, whether if they're cleaning up, then, maybe, I know it becomes hazardous at times, but that if we could actually, collect their valuable belongings in terms of birth certificates, driver's license, whatever that may be. Anyway, it's just a ramble. Thank you.
Well, I think it's an important point, Counselor Pena. And it even crossed my mind, and maybe this is something we continue to discuss, because solid waste has had a role in these encampments, and we talked about that when we're talking about the fee increase. That's some touchy activity, you know, to go in and remove people's belongings, and the point about how we figure out ways to return them whenever possible to the people who they belong to, even though these encampments are, you know, what can you say? They're technically illegal. They're not the kind of thing that we want law enforcement breaking up, but certainly people's property should be respected.
Maybe
So
there's
thank-
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for the interruption, but maybe there's something that we could look at by Monday in terms of, you know, since we're looking at the budget now in terms of funding certain containers or something. You know I was actually doing some research to find in other cities where they actually just pick the whole thing up, and maybe the person has 90 days or something to come collect it. And, you know, I mean, that's their life, right? And even some of the valuables that they have there, that's what they've, you know, they consider valuable to them. So anyway, I don't know if Councilor Borrego would want to wait until Monday and bring this amendment forward again, just to have that conversation. I support the cleanup, but how do we address the issues that are stated here?
I'm wondering, Councilor Dave Benson, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Counselor, just please address the chair.
Well, Councilor Benton, I was wondering, related to that, and I understand there are sensitivity issues. I'm wondering if we should consider another objective that would deal with that, because this particular amendment is really related to a partnership that we have with DOT, and we have with agencies like AMAFCA and other groups that work together. And I don't know that we can dictate to those other agencies in this particular amendment how they would deal with that. So I would see it as maybe another objective for city-related encampments.
All right, thanks. And you certainly, Councilor Pena, have the prerogative of doing that. Councilor Sena has a comment.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. You know, I share a lot of the same sentiments. I mean, considering the kind of ride along and outreach that I did over this past week, and just thinking of some of the providers, you know, talking to some of them and stating they would go to an encampment because that's kind of where they lived. And I see it, of course, as a public health issue of these encampments, and I see, you know, that objective of this partnership. But again, you know, they will move on to another encampment or establish another one, and really hoping that, you know, maybe that's the vision of this new department as well, in partnering up with this objective. Because again, we have to really get at the heart of the issue, which is the homelessness. People experiencing homelessness, and, you know, it's again their belongings. And, you know, I take issue of, because it is a complex, nuanced issue, because you know, we do clean these up, and I see again it is a public health issue. But you know, I think right now a lot of other cities and countries are even pausing that cleanup just because of COVID, hoping so that they can at least know where these people are to continue that outreach and do testing, for example. So I have a lot of hesitation with that, but I understand what Councilor Borrego's objective with this, or the intent of this objective, I should say, but really hope to speak on to what Councilor Pena and Councilor Benton was mentioning. You know, I don't think that that should just be the sole idea of it, but hopefully partnering up with maybe this new department to get that outreach to them and get them the resources and help that they need.
Thank you for that, Councilor Sena. Anyone else? We have a motion and a second for committee amendment number 5. Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
No.
Counselor Senna,
No.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
That passes on a 7-2 vote.
All right, thanks. Next is labeled F. This would be floor amendment number 6. Counselor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular amendment is related to looking to do a cost benefit analysis. Earlier, we were talking about city training and how we move forward with city training. I think currently much of the training is done department by department. And so this is looking at initiating a cost benefit analysis to see if it would be effective to maybe do it through one department like human resources. And really, this is just a study to see how that, what is the best way to do training for the city. So I move amendment number 6.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second from Counselor Bassan. And counselors, any discussion? I had one question myself. Let's see, Counselor Bassan has one, and then I'll go after her.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was trying to get there. Do we already do in-house training, or do we typically contract out? Or is it a mix of both right now?
Sounds like a question perhaps for the administration with regard to training.
It's both, actually.
I'm sorry, did you say it's both?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Bassan, it is both. And I'm looking for our director of HR, but I think she's not around. But yes, it's both.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 more.
Sure, please.
Thank you. Who would do, if we ended up, I realize that this is just doing the analysis right now, but who would be responsible for doing the in-house training?
Councilor Bassan, it would be Tom Darling, who is in charge of the university within the city, and he provides the training.
For Mr. Chair, and
please.
Would it be for all departments? It's just training for every position. I just am wondering, because I would think that there's varying degrees and expertise in all of this as well.
Committee Chair Benton and Councilor Bassan, we have the Public Service University operation that runs through our Human Resources Department. Tom Darling is the director of that division. They provide a wide range of trainings that go all the way from when you start out, your sort of intro trainings, to management, life skills, and different requirements to help you promote through the organization. In addition, Equity and Inclusion does some in-house trainings. And they do some HR oriented training, such as conflict resolution. And so there's a wide variety of trainings that are all coming through that Public Service University division.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Nair, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So that's the outside one, right? That's the one we contract with. And then if we were to go, eventually, if we were to go with only in-house, do we know who would be doing that?
Councilor Benton, Councilor Bassan, Public Service University is the in-house provider. If we externally procure training, we go through the RFP process because it usually goes above that dollar threshold.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
So I'll ask Ms. Nair, since we're on this. So Ms. Nair, do you feel this is something that could be conducted by the Public Service University group without going into a big contract with someone?
Councilor Benton, and I think we probably could, but we might benefit from external review just to the extent that they don't, if they're reviewing their own work, it might not be quite as independent as if an external force was running them. But for example, we work closely with CNM. I'm sure we might also be able to do some kind of partnership like that that might not be so costly.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, other questions or comments? If not, Councilor Borrego to close.
Just urge your support. I think this is merely a cost benefit analysis to see what the most effective way to do training for the city employees is.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. And Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Sure. Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris, Counselor Harris, Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously.
All right, next is item G in the packet. This would be floor amendment number 7, sponsored by Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move floor amendment G on page 8 after line 28, insert the following. Objective 14, to be useful for policy decisions and managing operations, performance measures must be valid and reliable. The current performance measures of the city do not accurately capture measures of service quality, efficiency, and effectiveness. The city shall complete a study of current performance measures and make recommendations for new measures that allow decision makers to better evaluate service levels, program effectiveness, and efficiency and accountability of the city. The performance measures should include a mix of output, efficiency, outcome, and productivity measures. An initial report should be submitted to City Council by the end of the second quarter of FY21. Final recommendation should be included in the FY22 budget proposal. And the explanation is that this amendment adds a priority budget objective for the government excellence and effectiveness goal, directing the administration to review and update the performance measures noted in the budget proposal submitted to City Council. Some of the performance measures presented in the budget proposal were noted to be outdated and did not provide a good mechanism to review whether a program is effective. This amendment would direct the administration to identify new performance measures to allow for better decision and policy making.
Yes, just a second. Yes, clarification from Ms. Yara.
Yes, thank you, Chair Benton. Councillor Bassan, I just realized that we forgot to assign this to a department. This would probably be appropriate for the Department of Finance and Administrative Services. So we can add that to the end of this objective amendment. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ms. Yara.
And is there a second for the motion? Second from Councilor Jones. Thank you. Any other discussion, councilors? All right, seeing none, Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Councilor Bassan,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I think that it seems as though maybe Councilor Gibson and Borrego have their hands up.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Sorry.
Councilor Borrego.
I think Counselor Gibson was before me, Counselor.
Councilor Gibson.
Sucks. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think what bothers me about this particular objective is that it seems like we're making an assumption that the performance measures are not accurate, or maybe they're not complete. I'm not sure what the statement is exactly. And I guess I'd like to ask the sponsor, do you know which performance measures are you talking in a general sense, or are you talking about indicators that we get reports on? What is it, every 2 years or 3 years, something like that?
Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilor Gibson, this was really a beginning thing that with the budget briefing and learning some details as questions came up, certain things were discovered, and I would defer to council staff because my brain is mush when it comes to all of what we've learned in the last few weeks on which department this was caught in. But there's some that kind of just like what we were talking about with cultural services, where they even needed to kind of update. They found some just issues where they needed to kind of clean up their evaluation. And this is falling into that same category where, just like with everything else in life, we need to make sure to reevaluate, refresh, and continue to make sure that we're on par and very detailed in what we do and how we evaluate.
Okay, so if I may, Mr. President or Mr.
Yes.
Chair, so you're not really looking at the indicators, I assume. And maybe that question is for staff.
Let me answer that.
Ms. Yara, please.
Chair Benton, thank you. Councilor Gibson, so these are the performance measures that are contained in the budget book that is provided to us through the mayor's proposed budget. Every department has, of course, their budget, a narrative about what they do, the changes, and then usually a page or 2 or 3 that lists different performance measures. And I think that's what Councilor Bassan is directing this at. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for helping me get caught up. That's all I have. Thanks.
Councilor Borrego.
I had a similar question as Councilor Gibson, because I was a little confused about if you all recall a few meetings back, we talked about the performance indicators and how that was going to change, I think, for the administration. So I'm wondering if maybe we should have a little bit of more analysis from the administration, maybe on Monday. And if we could maybe hold off on this, because I think the way that the indicators are being reevaluated and the way that the performance measures are going to be related to how the indicators are going to be assessed. I mean, it's going to all kind of relate back. And so I'm just wondering how the administration kind of sees that before, I don't feel comfortable voting on something that I'm not completely clear about, sort of the organizational development of how they all relate back to the performance indicators, or whatever we're going to call it.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Thank you. Councilor Borrego, in there under where we're adding in the objective 14, it says the city shall complete a study of current performance measures and make recommendations for new measures that allow decision makers to better evaluate service levels, program effectiveness, and efficiency and accountability of the city. And I feel like that's sort of the same. We're saying the same thing. This is saying the objective is to reevaluate this and make sure that what we're doing is on par, and that we are evaluating everything very detailed, and we're making some changes for the effectiveness, efficiency, and accountability.
And I agree with you, Counselor, but it also relates back to the progress reports that we get from this other group, which we haven't really established how that's going to be. I mean, what is it going to, we get progress reports from them that help us establish our performance indicators. So and maybe the administration can discuss it, but I feel a little bit uncomfortable not knowing how that group is going to develop.
So I think you're referring to the Indicators Progress Commission.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego. And I don't know, would the administration, anyone like to weigh in on this?
Sure, Chair Benton, Councilor Borrego, Councilor Bassan. I think we're talking about a couple of different things. So as I understand, Councilor Bassan's amendment relates to the various performance measures that are contained in the budget book. We do this as a matter of course every year when we go through the budget, through the hearings. And I think it makes a lot of sense to just continue to reevaluate those. We've often wondered how much we are measuring, output versus actual progress, moving the needle on an issue. So I think this is a good thing to undertake. The Indicators Progress Commission is, as Councilor Benton alluded to, established by statute. It happens sort of biennially and has to do with those big picture questions about what does it mean to have public safety in our community. There is no formal link between what goes on at the IPC and those public hearings and their reports and what happens in the budgetary process, except to the extent that, like, you know, we in the administration pay attention to both. But I'm not sure that they're really that closely linked. And I think we can easily reevaluate our performance measures in the budget without interfering with the IPC's processes. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Counselor? So
Please.
Sarita, I thought the progress indicators helped us establish our performance measures. Am I incorrect in that?
Chair Benton and Councilor Borrego, yeah, not the ones that are in the back of the budget book. They have a different set of measures that they do the surveys on annually, and then they also collect data and publish that in their report. Again, it may not be clear in the language of the amendment, but my understanding is that these are the different performance measures that are reported on through the budget process every year, and they appear in the back of the budget book.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions from counselors? If not, this has been moved and seconded. Floor amendment number 7.
I just,
Mr. Tega.
Councillor Bassan.
Mr. Chair, may I just say one more thing as a close?
Sorry,
I just wanted to say, I really did want to take a minute to do this and say, thank you, Ms. Nair. I think that was very clarifying to what we were talking about. And it wasn't, it is budget related, not just with the indicator progress report. So thank you, and I appreciate that. And now I urge all of your support, please.
All right.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Senna.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right. Next is labeled H in the packet. This would be amendment number 8. And Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is objective 2, complete a salary study for city planner positions to ensure that city wage rates and job classifications are comparable to other local government agencies. The study should include recommendations for reducing turnover and filling these positions, and then to submit a report to City Council by the end of the 3rd quarter of FY21. And this amendment adds a priority budget objective to the public infrastructure goal, directing the planning department to complete a salary study to review the pay rates of city planners compared to other similar cities and agencies. There could be a competitive pay gap that is preventing the city from hiring and retaining planners. And we need to, we're very short on those in the city department right now. So we need to good look at this to see if it's something we can do to get planners to the city of Albuquerque again.
Thank you. And there's a second from Councillor Bassan. And Councillor Bassan, did you want to speak as well? Councillor Borrego? No. Okay. Thanks for offering the second. And any other comments? I think this is important. The planning department, of course, has a lot of work ahead of it as we go into the community planning area process. And we want that to be a robust process. Important that we're fully staffed at planning. So, Ms. Well, we'll see. Councillor Jones to close. I haven't been doing that. What's the matter with
Thank
me?
you, Mr. President. This is, as the President explained, and we've worked very hard on this for many, many years now. This will help to make things better and more uniform in the city of Albuquerque. So I urge your support.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yeah.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Senna.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is page marked I, and this would be committee amendment number 9, sponsored by Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move committee amendment number 9 on page 8, after line 28, insert the following. Objective 14, complete a feasibility and cost analysis study for the construction or acquisition of a city materials recovery facility, a MRF, for processing and separation of recyclable materials. Submit a report of findings to City Council by the end of the third quarter of FY20 solid waste. So the explanation for this is this amendment adds a priority budget objective for the government excellence and effectiveness goal, directing the solid waste department to complete a feasibility and cost benefit analysis of constructing or acquiring a city-owned materials MRF. Currently, the city is on contract with Friedman Recycling for the recovery and sale of the recyclable materials at the facility. Recent market conditions have reduced the demand for and value of recyclables. There are many opportunities for the city to realize cost savings for this function if it were internalized, and to flatten the direct effects of the market on operations.
Thank you. And I see a second from, I guess it was Councilor Passan, is that correct? And Councilor Borrego had her hand up as well. If you're offering a second, or would you like to speak to this? Second, okay, thank you. And councilors, any discussion about this? I had discussed this with the solid waste director and Councilor Pena as well, and I think it's a valid question. And I don't think this necessarily has to be some massive consultant effort to figure out what it would cost to build one of these, because Friedman recently did build one of these. The city also has built a smaller version of one years ago. So we kind of know what we're talking about. We kind of know what the equipment costs and what that looks like and what these buildings typically look like. So I think it's be time well spent to pull that information together, maybe with some consultant help, but without making a major project out of it. Any other comments? Councilor Pena to close.
I urge your support, and this would actually bring city jobs back to the city. So thank you.
Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Passan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yeah.
Councilor Senna.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is labeled J, and this is committee amendment number 10. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 2, after line 23, insert the following objective 5. Complete the study on how the city is preparing and planning to provide services for our growing aging population. As the population of the city of Albuquerque continues to get older, the city should have a long-term plan on how it plans to prioritize programs and services to provide for this segment of the population. A report should be submitted to council by the end of third quarter FY 2021 senior affairs. The explanation for this amendment is this amendment adds a priority budget objective for the human and family development goal, directing the Department of Senior Affairs to complete a salary study to review what types of services will be needed in Albuquerque as our senior population gets older. So I move amendment, whatever Chairman said.
Number 10. Thank you. And there's a second from Councilor Sena. Thank you. Councilors, any discussion? All right. Seeing none, Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Councilor Passan.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Senna.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, Councilor Pena has the amendment labeled K, which will be committee amendment number 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move committee amendment number 11 on page 6 after line 29. Insert the following objective 4, complete a study of the options for creating a biopark admissions assistance program for low-income families. Submit a report of findings to the city council by the end of third quarter FY20 cultural services biopark. This amendment adds a priority budget objective for the community and cultural engagement goal, directing cultural services department to complete a study and determine feasibility and cost of low-income biopark admission assistance program or reduced fee structure. Families are in need of affordable cultural and recreation activities. For larger families with little means, the current admissions cost may be prohibited. And so I move committee amendment number 11, and I hope that it gets mirrored after kind of what Explora does. So I urge your support.
And there's a second from Councillor Borrego. Further discussion, councilors or administration, any thoughts on this? I think we've had something similar in the past, it seems like, but maybe I'm dreaming that. But certainly would be valid question to try to figure out how to do this. All right, Councillor Pena to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll urge your support. And I think we've talked about it in other budget cycles, but we really haven't put it as an objective. So I think, really solidifying this is what's important. So I urge your support.
All right, Councillor or Ms. Ortega to call the roll.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. And our last amendment in the packet is floor amendment number 12, and this is sponsored by Councillor Sena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move floor amendment number 12 on page 2 after line 23. Insert the following. Objective 5, complete a feasibility study to determine whether a sobriety tank or sobriety testing can be designated in the crisis triage and medical facility. The study would help determine whether a sobriety area could be and should be in the facility and if additional funding would be required. A report should be submitted to the council by the end of the third quarter of FY21 for family and community. The explanation for this is this amendment adds a priority budget objective for the health or for the human and family development goal, directing the family and community services department to complete a feasibility study for the review to review the inclusion of a sobriety tank in the crisis triage and medical facility. I want to note that this really came again out of my ride-alongs through transit, through security, through APD and AFR of the real need of something like this. And so conducting a study would be really important as to know the nuances of it and the feasibility of it. So I urge your support.
And did we get a second on that? Not, I'll second that for this important objective. Any discussion, councilors? I don't see any. And Councillor Sena. Actually, Councillor Gibson has a comment.
I just have one question on this. Where is the crisis triage and medical facility? Or is this the proposed one, the one that we're looking at doing, the proposed one? Okay, I was racking my brain. I really thought there was something out there that somehow I had missed it. All right, thank you.
We all want it, and we're hopefully going to have it. Councillor Sena to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, again, really looking at, and I have to keep extending my appreciation to all those that let me get a glimmer of what they do every day on my ride-alongs. And what was most notable was really this idea of the sobriety tanks. So I urge your support.
Thank you. Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right. We are back, excuse me, on the bill as amended. Counselors, any discussion on our objectives? Seeing none, I'll urge your support and ask Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson. Counselor Gibson,
Sorry. Yes.
thank you. Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously as amended.
And we'll need to move immediate action for R99. I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Counselor Harris. Thank you. And this will move immediate action at our next meeting, of course. Ms. Ortega, call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to our last item. This is item D, sponsored by Counselors Pena and Sena, R85. And which of you would like to move that?
So do we need to defer this till Monday?
We will be moving immediate action on Monday, yes. But we do need to do pass tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Apologize. So I don't know if you want to take this on, Counselor Senna?
Sure. I mean, I can read it in, Counselor, if you'd like.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I move R85 supplementing priorities for the capital implementation program of the City of Albuquerque by implementing a racial equity criterion to be used in the development of the plan. I move a do pass.
And I'll take Counselor Pena as a second then on that. Okay. All right. So that's been moved and seconded. And a discussion, counselors. Counselor Borrego.
Thank you, counselors, for pushing this forward. And I just wanted to mention, and it's kind of not totally part of this bill, but it follows in line with it. I wanted to mention that the Environmental Health Department is the only department that actually did consider equity in its green energy infrastructure citywide analysis. And I thought it, even though it's not exactly part of the racial equity, it's part of the green program. And I think it's important because it follows in line with this same line of thinking.
Thank you, Counselor Borrego. And for the sponsors, unless there's any other discussion, I'll ask you to close.
I urge your support. Thanks for your co-sponsorship, Counselor Senna.
All right, Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. And I'll go ahead and move immediate action for R85 at our next meeting.
Second.
Second for Counselor Harris, thanks. And I urge your support. Anybody? We're clear the deck on that. And so Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega, and thanks everybody for all that good work. And there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.